All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. I'm really happy to be here with you this morning. It's the 4th of November of 2025 is the day I'm recording this. My theme today is that Trump says no more auto extensions of work permits. All right? No more auto extensions of work permits. And we're going to talk about what that means and how that is affecting people and how that will start to affect people. Okay? So thank you all for tuning in. If you're tuning in now, I'd love some interaction as we're talking. You want to write down where you're watching from, and whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, hello, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to today's episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. I really appreciate each and every one of you on this beautiful day. All right, so the Empowered Immigrant Live, all right, what is this? Well, the Empowered Immigrant Live is where we train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right? Today, our theme is that Trump says no more auto extensions of work permits. And so we'll talk about that today. And as we're going through that topic, if you have questions, please feel free to submit your questions. I'd love to answer your questions, and I'd love to understand whatever questions are on your mind regarding your immigration case. All right? As we're doing that, it's like my question for you is, do you want to get a green card? Do you want to get asylum? Do you want to apply for a U visa or for VAWA or for cancellation of removal? Or do you have a loved one who's detained by ICE? Or are you looking for help or for a solution or for answers to your immigration situation? Do you want to up-level your life and your freedom by fixing or improving your immigration status? If any of those situations are in your mind, it's like, go for it. All right? Go for it. And I'd love to help you with that if I can help you in any way. All right? My law firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years, and we would love for your case to be one of them. All right? If we can help you in any way, feel free to give us a call, send us a message, whatever. We're here to help. We'd love to help. Okay? So thank you for being there, for being here, rather. And yeah, let me know what your questions are as we go through with today's conversation. All right, so what I want to announce, 6 days ago, I think it was 6 days ago, let me get the register. The Federal Register came out with a change on the 30th of October. So what was that? I guess 4 or 5 days ago now. And what this change says is that they are going to end the practice of automatically extending the validity of employment authorization documents, all right, for immigrants who have timely filed their applications to renew their work permits, all right? And the purpose, according to the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration, the purpose is to, quote unquote, prioritize the proper vetting and the proper screening of immigrants before granting a new period of employment authorization or a new work permit. Okay? So what they do say, though, is that this policy does not affect the validity of work permit applications that have been automatically extended before October 30th of 2025, which means if you have filed your work permit or your work permit renewal, and if you received an automatic extension, you're good. It is automatically extended, right? But if you have just filed your work permit renewal request and you have not yet received an automatic extension of your work authorization, you will not receive an automatic extension of your work authorization anymore. And so instead, you will just cross your fingers and hope that they approve your work permit before your prior work permit expires. And the problem with that, of course, is that often the government takes more time than we want them to take to approve and send out somebody's work permit. And so the problem with that, of course, is that some people will lose their jobs. Okay? And that is what the Trump administration is doing. They are making it so that people will lose their jobs. Immigrants who have a lawful process that is pending will lose their jobs if the government doesn't approve the new work permit before the expiration of the old one. Okay? Does that make sense that this is what they're doing? I mean, the answer is no. It's foolish. It's mean-spirited. It's like cruel. So no, it doesn't make sense from that perspective, but is it clear, everything that I just said? Right? It's like they're harming immigrants who have lawful and valid work permits because they're going through a lawful and valid process. And they're doing it, in my opinion, for zero reason. All right? Zero benefit to the government. They're just putting more pressure on the immigrant community and the people that our country depends on. It's really stupid. That's just really stupid, people. My opinion is that it's really stupid. It's poor it's poor judgment in our country's leadership. If you're a U.S. citizen and you're listening to me right now, it's like we got to be conscious of this. We got to be mindful of these things, these little things. They don't make the news, right? They don't this isn't like a giant, this isn't like on the front page of the New York Times. But people will lose their jobs because of the decisions like this for no reason. Isn't that insane? It's insane. Anyway, it disgusts me. So that's what I wanted to share today. All right. So people are gonna, and so what's the takeaway? All right. So the takeaway is, if you have a work permit because you are in a legal process to fix your green card or fix your asylum status or whatever it is, calendar when that work permit is going to expire and make sure you submit your extension request, your renewal of your work permit 180 days beforehand. Don't submit it earlier than 180 days because it will be rejected. But if you submit it right at the 180th day before your work permit is going to expire, now you've maximized your chances of getting the next one approved before, and so there will be, cross your fingers, the possibility that you'll get your new work permit before those 6 months go by. But it's, that's the situation. Okay? So past my bedtime, I see your comment here. You say, yes, it's awful. They can work for themselves or file with a 1099. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point, actually. And, and many people, thank you for saying this. I often recommend, I'm a business owner, right? I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I love running my law firm. I love helping people through my law firm and through our business. I often encourage, and I often will recommend, or at least recommend thinking about it, at least recommend getting advice about it, the idea of starting your own business. And why? Right? Immigrants start businesses in the United States all the time, every day. You don't need a green card to start a business in the United States. All right? People come in from, Saudi Arabia or from China or from wherever to the United States and start a business in a weekend. All right? It is not that difficult to start and register a new business in the United States. But what's cool about owning a business? You can receive money for work you do through a business, irrespective of what I-9 form, irrespective of what, green card or passport or documentation, right? It's like you got to pay your taxes through the business. It doesn't just eliminate all the problems, but sometimes it's a strategy worth exploring. And that is what you're saying. Past my bedtime. Thank you for saying that. You can work for themselves or file a 1099. That is a way to empower yourself. All right? Is to, say, hey, I'm not going to be a W-2 employee anymore. Instead, I'm going to start my own thing. And I'm going to charge people. And it's not going to be that they're paying me and they don't have to check my, when somebody pays a business, they don't check that business's documentation or whatever, right? They don't check even the business owner. No, they write a check to the business for the service that the business just provided. So anyway, those are ideas. And past my bedtime. Thank you for being here and thank you for saying that. All right, so my best advice here today is don't go it alone. Have a team, have support, get empowered, okay? Like in our office, we track work permit expiration dates, and we are in communication, right, about when we need to renew those work permits, etc. And that's what you want, okay? The other thing that I'll say, just as like advice, this isn't legal advice, but it's human advice. It's like Trump and the Trump administration and the whole Republican leadership right now, they can keep trying, all right? They can keep trying to take away and take away and take away everything we got, all right? They can't take away our soul, our spirit, our essence, our self-worth. They can't do that. All right? We got to believe in ourselves. We got to believe in our self-worth. And we got to fight for ourselves so that we can achieve what we want to achieve in our lives. And for me, it's an honor to represent my clients. It's an honor to be a stand for the immigrants that are in the United States. Like, immigrants are awesome. And if you are listening to me and if you disagree with that sentence, then that's your problem. All right? In my experience, I work with immigrants every day. And I think that, like, if you want to overcome that viewpoint where you think that immigrants are a problem or something like that, you just got to get to know more of them. It's pretty simple. Once you start really getting to know people that have come to the U.S. from all over the world with their hopes and their dreams and their ideas, and they're like, hey, they want to make a contribution, a positive contribution, and they are doing that. Immigrants are awesome, and it's an honor to represent immigrants. And the fact that our current leadership doesn't recognize that is their problem. All right? And in my view, the people of the United States either have already woken up or are in the process of waking up, and our current political leadership will not be in power forever, folks. All right? That's my opinion. That's what I want to say. All right, let me get into your questions, and thank you so much for being here. All right, really appreciate each and every one of you. Elias, I see your question. I see your question here. Thank you. You say, would you recommend renewing DACA after a diversion program DUI? All right. That's a tricky question. That's a tricky question. So we would have to look carefully at your diversion program. We would have to look carefully at whether or not there was a quote unquote finding of guilt in your case, and whether or not the finding of guilt was quote unquote for a driving under the influence of 0.08% blood alcohol content DUI, or whether it was perhaps to a lesser offense in some way. If it wasn't a quote unquote finding of guilt, sometimes diversion programs don't include a guilty plea, right? You can do what's called pre-plea diversion. So sometimes there's no plea entered at all. There's no actual finding of guilt in play. When that's the case, diversion should not, it can still be taken against you for discretionary purposes. It doesn't automatically take the problems off the table for a DACA case, because DACA is discretionary. But it removes the bar to DACA. Because remember, the criminal bars to DACA, you cannot be approved for DACA if you have any felony, if you have any quote-unquote significant misdemeanor, which includes DUIs, or if you have 3 or more small normal misdemeanors. And so we've got to really look at it, LES, and I'd be happy to look at that with you, right? Feel free to call our office. We can guide you through that. Okay? That's a great question, though. You know, that's something that I could do a whole episode about DACA and separately even about diversion. All right, what's new with DACA? Thank you for saying this. So we are waiting right now about DACA. All right, there's actually news that is coming about DACA. Let me just double check the latest litigation and see. I don't think there was anything this morning. I've been tracking this though very diligently. There was a new, let's see if there's anything brand new here. No, okay. So the latest thing with DACA, I did an episode about this just a couple of weeks ago, okay? There is a process happening in the Fifth Circuit in Texas. A settlement proposal has been submitted, okay? It is currently pending whether or not that settlement is going to be implemented. But what the settlement says, it says that Texas as a state, all right, showed standing. This is complicated. Texas as a state showed standing to show that DACA is injuring the state of Texas. But the settlement says that only the state of Texas has showed that they have that standing. Okay? So what they're saying is that DACA will be limited and will only be approvable to give work permits through DACA to people if they are not living in the state of Texas. Okay? What that means is, if this gets decided and if this goes through, what it means is that everybody outside the state of Texas will be allowed to resubmit applications for DACA, even if you never submitted DACA from the beginning. All right? As long as you're eligible under those original guidance. You know, you have to have been physically present in the United States June 17th of 2012. All right? You can't have a misdemeanor, a significant misdemeanor, a felony, or 3 or more misdemeanors, right? I'm going from memory. I don't have my notes in front of me about the original DACA regulations. You had to have been you have to have arrived to the U.S. before the age of 16, and you had to have arrived before a specific date in the year 2007. All right, you have to have graduated school. All right, or have done something in the armed forces, or received a GED. And you have to merit a favorable exercise of discretion. I'm just going from memory. I've done a lot of DACA, I could clarify that if I missed any of the requirements, but I think those are each of them. Okay? If you have those, according to this settlement, you will be able to apply even if you've never applied for DACA before. That's huge news, all right? As long as you do not currently reside within the state of Texas. Isn't this crazy? That's crazy. Listen, folks, if you, let me promise you this. If there is news about DACA, I will do a webinar specifically for DACA people. All right? And I'll clarify it, and I'll explain what has happened, and it'll be free of charge, and it'll be like, I'll do something that really gives a full detail of what people can do, how to renew your DACA, how to apply initially if you've never applied before. Does that sound good? If there's interest in that, then we'll put that out, and we'll put it on YouTube. We'll do whatever we can to disseminate that information. All right. So I am excited about that, though. That possibility is a big deal. Okay. So let's see here. What other questions are out there? Okay, there's lots more questions. Thank you. All right, so keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. If you have questions, please feel free to continue to ask them. Let's see. Kinkle, can you travel with a refugee travel document with no fear of, and then it cut off there. Can you travel with a refugee travel documents? So the answer is yes. A refugee travel document is a travel document for people who have already won asylum or refugee status. Okay? And so if you have won your asylum case or your refugee status determination, then you can travel. If you receive a refugee travel document, you can travel. Can you return back to the country that you're afraid of or that you won your case from? That is very risky. All right? Like, that is not wise. And if you're thinking of doing that, the way the regulations are written say that if you, quote unquote, avail yourself of the protections of your country, then they can terminate or take away your asylum status. And I have seen cases, all right, where people did that, like went back to their country and were active or did something in public or were there too long or whatever, and where the courts have found that they, quote unquote, availed themselves of the protections of their country and have taken away their asylum status. And that's a huge mistake. Don't do that. And so the best advice is, even after you win asylum, wait a year, then apply for and receive a green card, all right? And then wait, a total of 5 years with your green card and apply to become a U.S. citizen before going back and living or staying a long amount of time in your home country. I have seen cases where people just go in and out of their country very quietly, very carefully, don't, quote unquote, avail themselves of the protection just for one specific purpose, see their mother while she's on her deathbed or something like that, and then leave very quickly. Things like that are okay, more likely to be okay. But right now in this environment, do not leave on a refugee travel document to your home country without talking to a lawyer who really knows how to fight that type of case. All right, feel free to call our office if we can help you with that. All right, and yes, we know how to advise about that issue. It's just a question of whether or not you have a lawyer already, etc. All right. May, you say, sir, hello, I have a 2-year green card. Am I safe to stay outside the USA for 4 months? The answer is yes. All right. When you have a green card, even a 2-year conditional green card, you have the right to travel. All right. A green card is a travel document. And so the best advice is whenever you travel outside the U.S., keep that trip less than 180 days, less than 6 months. Why? Because if it's over 180 days, then you have to be subject to a readmission. All right, so you have to be readmitted. So the best advice is to keep it under 180 days so you don't have to go through that whole larger process when you're re-entering the country, and that's the best way to do it. All right. Mayrita, I see your question. I got stuck in the limbo of DACA in 2021. Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people that were stuck in that 2021 time where they allowed for it, and then the lawsuit was filed, and it was like, they were going to renew DACA again, and then it got stuck by the courts. And so, so you're not alone. If this settlement goes forward, then you'd be in the perfect situation to move and refile for DACA. Okay? Oh, Kinkle, you clarify here. I'm going somewhere else, not my country. Yeah, that's what a refugee travel document is for. All right, so yes, you can do that. Make sure that your refugee or asylee status is legal, is accurate, is valid, is not expired, is good, all right? And not expired. When you win asylum in the U.S., it is a permanent status, but you can lose it. So certain crimes, etc., an immigration judge can take it away in certain instances. All right, you guys. I think those are all the questions that I got. I don't see, well, it looks like there's a couple here on TikTok. Let's see. Kinkle, you say, how long does it take to get your resident permit? Waiting 1 year after getting approved for asylum. Yeah, that's a great question. You file the I-485 with your adjustment of status. Well, that is your adjustment of status. Current processing times depends on your field office. Here in the Bay Area, we're getting those cases approved in about 8 months right now, but it fluctuates. It goes up and down. And so I hope you have a lawyer helping you and representing you through the process. And if we can help you, feel free to give us a call. All right, let's see. Past my bedtime. You say, have the wait times for citizenship appointments decreased? Yeah, we have seen that. We have seen that. I've been happy with the speed at which citizenship is being adjudicated. But honestly, I wonder if it's just that there's a lot fewer people applying for citizenship, because people are nervous right now. But yes, the cases that we are applying for citizenship are being adjudicated relatively quickly, 5 months or so. Okay? The last question I see here, let's see, Joser, I see your question. Green card through marriage. I am a DACA recipient. How's my chances looking like? Green card through marriage. All right. Thank you for asking this question. Really appreciate that. So, I can't know for sure what your chances look like just based on the fact that you're a DACA recipient. Okay? In order to do a green card adjustment of status, well, let me do this. In order to get a green card through marriage, there are two big processes. Process number one is adjustment of status in the United States. Process number two is what's called the consular process through your home country, through the U.S. consulate or embassy in your home country. Those are the two big processes, all right? To be eligible to adjust status in the United States, which often is what we want to do, it is a better process for people if we're eligible for it. To be eligible for it, you must have been inspected and admitted or paroled into the United States. You must be married and in good faith, legally and in good faith married to a U.S. citizen, and you must be quote-unquote admissible. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of questions to go through. That's the type of thing that we do in a consultation. But I'll repeat that just to be super clear. To be eligible to adjust status through marriage in the United States, there's three requirements. First, you have to have been inspected and admitted or paroled into the United States. Like many people with DACA were never inspected, admitted, or paroled. Some were. And so, Joser, it's a question for you as to like, when you entered, do you have a visa? Did you have a parole document? Did they allow you in? Right? That's the first requirement. If you don't have that, then you got to do consular processing or you got to get advanced parole, which you can get through DACA. All right? The second requirement is you have to be in a lawful and good faith relationship with a U.S. citizen spouse. If your spouse is a green card holder, you can't adjust unless your spouse becomes a citizen. We could do that. All right. The third requirement is you have to be quote unquote admissible. And admissibility is a huge, there's 50 or so questions to go through to really determine admissibility or not. The big ones are, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever used, possessed, cultivated, sold, had anything to do with any illegal drug, narcotic, including marijuana? All right. Have you ever lied on any immigration application before? Everything in your DACA application was honest, accurate, right? Have you ever helped any other person enter the U.S. without permission? Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen or voted or anything like that? Any false claims to U.S. citizenship? So those are the types of things and questions that we would go through in a consultation. All right? You also have to see whether or not there was any unlawful presence bar against you ever, right? Or deportation order. There's lots of other things to go through. Okay. But thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. And if we can help you in any way with any of that, we'd love to. All right? Michal, hello. I see you here. Thank you. You say, hello, is it safe to have an asylum interview and a lawyer helping remotely? Thank you for asking this question. Yes, it is. It's common, actually, that lawyers will go in will represent a client at an asylum interview through the phone, all right, and help remotely. But in my office, we prefer to go with our clients to an asylum interview whenever that's practical, whenever that works for everybody else, whenever the schedule is aligned. We like it better. If somebody is detained at an asylum interview, it's so much better to have an attorney there in person. All right, we can make notes of exactly what is happening and who's gonna be transferred where, and relay those messages and stuff. If somebody is there in the room, and yes, that has happened, and yes, that does happen sometimes, and yes, that happens more and more right now than it ever used to. And so those are things to be mindful of. Those all make it wiser to have an in-person attorney with you and talk it through with your lawyer first, right? If you're going to an asylum interview and if you have a clean-cut case and if you have some other status already, and it's like there are some people where it's like they're in student visa status, for example, while they go to their asylum interview. They have zero risk of being detained unless there's some crime or something else, because you have valid immigration status otherwise, right? I won't say zero risk. In this administration, crazier things have happened, but anyway, wanted to share all of that. Okay. Jesus is Lord. I see you here on YouTube. Thank you. You say, hi, how are you? Can I travel to Africa with travel documents? Thank you. It's a great question. It depends on where you're from, and it depends on what travel documents you have and whether they're through asylum or whether they're through, it's like, to answer that question, we should do a consultation, right? And really get to the bottom of what's your status, what are your travel documents, where are you going, and make sure that you can return, okay? Everybody can travel elsewhere. The question is always, can you return? Right? And under U.S. law does not care. Yes, you could travel to Africa under U.S. law, at least. But the question is always, can you return to the U.S. afterwards? And that's we would need to have a consultation about it. Let's see, Big Boss Ellie, I see your question. I love how the questions are coming in. I love it. So thank you all very much for being here. I hope this is all useful for folks. Big Boss Ellie, you say, do they send biometrics twice? I did biometrics in 2023, got detained in 2024, and have new biometrics in 2025. So interesting. Thank you for being here and for sharing this. So we have seen it where if someone had biometrics done recently, the government will say, oh, we don't need them again because you just did them. And so I've seen that. And I've seen it where they do request it twice. Oh, you had biometrics on your work permit, and now they're going to request biometrics again on your whatever, your green card application or whatever. And so I don't have a precise like rhyme or reason to why they would request it again, but I can tell you that in my experience, it is common that they do what you're doing and they have multiple times where they request biometrics. Okay? I believe that biometrics are supposed to be valid for 2 years. And so, if they did it in 2023, maybe it's a question of, okay, what was the precise date in 2023 that they did them? And now it's 2025, but it is November 4th, right? And so if they're asking it because 2 years have gone by, maybe that's the reason. Okay? All right, original toy. I see your question here. Did green card interview from October 20th? You did your green card interview October 20th. Okay. Officer says that they will approve, but you're still waiting on the account update. All right, well, congratulations. First of all, you're done with your green card interview. All right, if officers said that they will approve it, that's a very good sign. All right, often they will not say anything, and instead they'll say, hey, I need to run this by a supervisor or whatever. And so you have a lot of positive things going for your case, but you're still waiting on account and an update. I mean, it was just on the 20th of October. And so it sounds to me like you're in a good place, original.toy. And so congratulations to you. My guess is, give it another couple of weeks or so, you should be okay. Hopefully your green card comes in the mail. Okay? And if it's like 5 months and it doesn't come in the mail, then it's like get lawyer involvement and help. We can run all the records requests and figure out what really has happened there, because there something went off the rails. But if it's a month or so, that's pretty common. Okay. Big Boss Ellie, I see you here. You say it was a green card administrative closure. All right, so I see those words. What I want to say there, the question might be whether or not you were filing your green card in front of the judge. If you were filing your green card in front of an immigration judge and your case was administratively closed, then you will not get a green card. Okay? On the other hand, if your green card case was administratively closed in front of USCIS, not in the court, then maybe you need to, well, in either case, maybe you need to recalendar that to then move forward with your green card process. Yeah, Big Boss Ellie, I would say let's start with a consultation. Let's look at why your green card case got administratively closed. Typically, you don't want that. If you're eligible for a green card, you want to get that thing approved, all right? Maybe you want to get your removal case administratively closed. Even better, get it terminated so that you can apply for a green card in front of USCIS. But, yeah. Anyway, hope that's clear. I hope that's helpful. ISSA. You say, my husband was placed in PA 221G since September in Tegucigalpa without asking for more documentation. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. What the term that you're talking about, it's not PA, it's called administrative processing. You might call it PA if it's in Spanish, right? Proceso administrativo, something like that. But it's called administrative processing, 221G. It's a consular case through Tegucigalpa. They're not asking for more documentation. So what that means is talk to your lawyer about it. It can mean all kinds of things. It might mean that everything's good and they just need to run it through a background check, perhaps. Or maybe there's like a name match with your husband and somebody else, or maybe there's something that may have caused a delay. Maybe they need to run it through Washington, D.C. and see if you're going to need like a waiver of some kind. Maybe there's some other weird issue in the case. And so it's hard to know is the honest answer. Administrative processing is like the consulate. There are cases that are in administrative processing for 2 days, and there are cases that are in administrative processing for years, right? For 10 years, even. And so I don't mean that to like, I have no idea, right, in your case, if there might be some explanation or reason for why your husband was placed in administrative processing. I'm sorry that that has happened, but it has just been a month or two, right? I guess September. Now we're in November, so that's coming up on 2 months here for you. I am sorry about that, but I would have your lawyer continue to follow up with, continue to ask questions about, like, hey, what's going on in the case, and what other information do you need? They haven't asked for more documentation, so maybe they don't need anything else. And maybe they're just waiting to maybe it's background checks is maybe the thing that I would assume that it is without knowing more. Okay? Anyway, let's all keep Isa and her husband in mind here today. Let's hope that their case gets resolved quickly, and really, Isa, I wish you the very, very best with it. All right, I know that's a stressful situation to be in. Okay, let's see. Is that AI? Is that AI? You say immigration Q&A. Oh, okay, that's AI. That's funny on TikTok. That's funny. AI immigration Q&A. Ask about the green card process. That's really funny. TikTok. All right. The next question I see is Osumain Berry. I came to the U.S. with someone's passport. Now I'm a green card holder through asylum. Can I apply for citizenship? Thank you. Thank you for asking this question. So the challenge, when you use someone else's travel document to enter, that is fraud. Okay? So let me explain this, all right? When you use someone else's travel document to enter the United States, that is fraud. When you use a U.S. citizen's travel documents to enter the U.S., like if it was a U.S. passport, then that is a quote-unquote false claim to U.S. citizenship, and that will bar you, all right? That would be a serious problem. When it's not a false claim to citizenship, but it is fraud, a person can still apply for asylum. They can still win their asylum case, but you got to own it. You got to include it. You got to own up to what, the fraud that was committed. And a judge needs to recognize that, oh, okay, your life was in danger. And if you were removed to your country, you would be killed or subject to persecution or horrible violence, etc. And that they're going to approve your asylum case despite that issue. Then, to get a green card, typically, you need to include what's called an I-602 waiver, which is a waiver to waive that type of fraud, all right, or other inadmissibility issues. So hopefully all that stuff was done and was done properly for you and in your case. If all that stuff was done and it was done properly, then you should have no problem applying for citizenship. But if those things were not done properly, then I would say, bad idea. You got to fix that stuff. You got to fix that stuff. You're going to have to go back and really talk it through with a lawyer who knows how to help you navigate this type of stuff, because that can cause problems. All right, and get good advice. Review all the records carefully. Make sure everything in the past was done properly before applying for citizenship. That's my very best advice. And what I would say is, if you want my office to help you, we'd be happy to help you. But we start with a consultation, and we would request all of your FOIAs. FOIA stands for the Freedom of Information Act. And that law gives everybody, U.S. citizens, immigrants, whatever, everybody, the right to request all of the records that the U.S. government has in your case and in your case file. And that is a tool that we lawyers use to help people fix issues in the past like that. Okay? And yeah, so anyway, thank you very much for asking that question. You are not alone, and I wanted to I wanted to kind of explain my thoughts about it. All right, good, good. I think those are all the questions that I got. I hope I answered everyone's questions. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. A lot of interaction today. I love that. You know, what can I say? It's November 4th. A year ago right now was election time. Do you remember that? A year ago, right? It was actually November 6th was the election. And it's crazy. It's been 1 year. And it's like, yeah, anyway. A lot has changed, right? A lot has changed in our lives, and so there we go. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate each of you. I hope this was useful. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please give me some love or some hearts or a like, or please, take a moment, subscribe to our channel in YouTube. When you do that, hit the notifications bell. You can receive a notification whenever we upload an additional video with news and updates and things of that nature. If you have an immigration case, if you have specific questions about your situation, feel free to please give us a call. We are here to help. We would love to help. All right. My team is awesome, by the way. I've got a former judge on my team. We're a total of 26 team members right now. We're wonderful people. We don't bite, I promise. And we're here to help. We would love to help you. Okay? And so, and ultimately, life is about, one step at a time, making things happen, making the next decision, like do what you can. And to keep moving forward in life, you got to believe in yourself, right? Just the future is brighter than the present. I do believe that. All right, and I hope that you believe that too. We got to bring some optimism to life, right? Because it's like without it, what the heck are we doing? Oh my gosh, it's just dark and dreary every day. That doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. And yes, I think change will happen in the future, and I'm a stand that it does. Hope you stand with me. All right. Thanks to each of you. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Great to see you all here. I love each of you. My love goes out to each of you. And make it a great day, folks. Make it a great day. Be the light that shines. Take care.